Hey, so we're going to be following up on Tesla, Airbnb, and Crispr. This is just going to be technical analysis because we kind of got removed. And I'll pull up the tracker here for us. We checked on these three about a month and a half ago. So I'm sure a lot has happened between then and now, uh, but I just haven't been up on the news. I do intend to catch up on that, but just to give us a base, we're going to go through these three, just do a technical analysis, and we'll just kind of see where they are today compared to where they were about a month and a half ago. And if you have any questions or have a difference of opinion on any of these, by all means, uh, share it in the comments. I'd be happy to read that. But we're going to start off with Tesla. So that's currently on the screen right now. Last time we checked on them was April 20th. So if we zoom in, that was about here. So about 164. We wrote 162. So something, it's just $2. So it's right in that range. Since then, it kind of went straight or flat for a while. And then most recently, it's kind of accelerated. Overall, we had this gold trend line. We didn't make it a channel. I just felt like it was too soon. We probably could create a channel with some dips below and maybe above, or we could just make it that wide. Very possible, but just to keep it simple, that seems to be the trajectory, where about half are above, half are below. Some are like right on the line. So that's kind of par for the course. If we look out here, we did put a box in there of what we thought might be the price for this one at year end. I think I'm going to do something very similar to that in terms of just drawing out where I think this one could end up by end of the second quarter. So by the end of the month is another way of saying it. If I just draw this box in, I think this is very possible, just be in this range. So between about 213 up to about 243, which would be right in the center of our fair value range, which is currently 219 to 262. And again, I'm just picking that very, I guess, randomly, but factoring in the fact that this uptrend seems to be working. And I guess what we can do, um, I like to put these in, but at the same time, there's a flaw with it for me. Um, Oops, didn't mean to do that. What happened here? Um, it's putting in these parallel lines, and the one flaw that I have with it is that it doesn't, like, it goes out for infinity, which in some instances that's great. In other instances, it's like, I kind of wish it wasn't that way, because in this case, I would just like to draw it out about 6 months worth as opposed to infinity. So the only way to do it, such as the yellow line, would be if I did it manually. But just to kind of do a quick and dirty type trend line here, that captures all the lines. We could obviously pinch it in a little more to possibly reflect it slightly differently. And also looks like our gold line we have at a steeper incline compared to this. And that's why I might want to bring this down a little bit, because I think it kind of was over purchased back here in about January, February of this year. And then I think this little dip here might have been like an oversell. The problem is I can't seem to pull it in. I guess that's the way to do it. But so something more like that. I don't think that's going to last very long, but we'll see, of course. So I guess just to start updating this, so it was at 162. We're currently standing at 213. Quite a big jump, actually. I had a buy point marked at 186. I still like that point. If we zoom out, the reason it was marked is it seemed like that was kind of where it dipped in the past of 21. It seemed to kind of hang out there in December of 22. And then, of course, most recently from about February until now, like May, it's kind of been bouncing between that range of, we'll say, about 160 up to like 210. So 186 just seemed to have, I could have pulled it a little bit lower and maybe caught this bottom here, maybe a couple of these candles. Uh, but I was basing it off this. I was adding weight back here to the 2021 bottoming, and then also just kind of catching a lot of candles here. But again, I could have dropped it lower, uh, but we'll keep it as is for now. So a buy point, is that going to change at all? No, not today at least. I do see this uptrend, which we do have that marked in the notes. It said slight uptrend for 3 months. If we look at it now, that uptrend's still intact. We could say it's now 5 months. So slight uptrend for 5 months. And I'll share this once it's all kind of updated before moving on to the next stock. We noted to buy the dips, and it also may have broken the uptrend. So again, if we zoom in, we looked at it right around here, or 420 it looks like. So right around here, we looked at it at the bottom of this red candle here. And again, we started seeing it trade sideways, and we could argue that actually, that maybe for right now in the short term, and so I'll just draw these in for us. So in the short term, we could say it's kind of doing something like this, consolidate. Hopefully this is parallel. It's always tricky. And then I wonder if I can copy and paste that. I don't think so. I wish. Let's see, unlock, delete. Okay, I thought I could do that. We'll add another trend line, and so right here, if we just draw this parallel with our other line, it does seem to be consolidating across here. Of course, we have our uptrend, and let's make these some different colors just so we don't get confused. I'm gonna make this a half speed because it's not like it's not certain yet. Like if it was more time, I would say maybe like 10 months, maybe I would make it a more solid figure. Yellow is more like a temporary thing. So what we'll do is we'll make these two lines yellow just to kind of stick with the trend of what I just stated. It's maybe like an orange color, but I think you kind of get the case here. So let's zoom in. Hopefully yellow's like okay for the screen. But yeah, we've kind of been chopping sideways from about February up till today. Most recently, we've actually crossed over it this past week. So depending on what you think has more weight behind it, and it just so happens that green line's kind of slicing it right in half. But depending on what we want to say has more weight behind it, whether is it going to just consolidate between that range of about, say, 210 and 160, and therefore it might pull back? Or is this uptrend going to continue out? And the best we could do is maybe catch it sometimes next week in like the low 190s. That's possible. So kind of a judgment call, I think. So again, going back to this question of, are we going to update the buy point? 186, I think for now, we'll keep it there. And just kind of see how it plays out. If we zoom out just a little bit, based on that, again, this is kind of tricky because we haven't looked at the news. The news is very helpful, I can tell you that now, just looking at these, because you can kind of get a sense of what it's going to do in the near future based on those updates. So very much looking forward to getting caught up there. But I'm going to drag this down a little bit. I am going to give more favoritism to the sideways consolidation. Just some of the news I remember is they were trying to cut their profit margins to gain more exposure. And so if that's the case, their numbers really shouldn't be all that great financially. But long term, hopefully they gather this market share that they're hoping for, and that's when they can see these increased profit margins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this down a little bit, this range, while still keeping a little bit in our consolidation range, um, but more so in the uptrend channel. And that's really just being influenced by the fact that it's where it is today at about 213. If it was, say, down here at 200, that that range, I might pull it back a little bit, something like here. But for now, because it's where it is today, I'm going to keep it right around there. So to wrap up, the buy point 186, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it where it is. Resistance, kind of struggling to get above 220. And I guess more specifically, we could say like 213. It doesn't seem to want to go above 210. Right now it's at 213, and that's why I'm saying just round it up to like 219. We had ultimately 298, and that's that red line at the very top. So what we're going to do, we're going to add in 213 because, again, it looks like it's kind of struggling there. But who knows? If this uptrend channel continues, maybe that won't last much longer. Based on our current estimation for month end of quarter two, we are thinking that it's more likely that it's going to get rejected at that point, or if it does break it, it's only going to be slightly. Of course, we'll see how it plays out. Another resistance point. Yeah, I mean 298 is like the ultimate resistance point. It's hit its head there a couple times. We could argue that right around here, we can pull this down a little bit, I'd say. This fair value range, pull it down just a little bit to about here, we'll say, about 254. If you catch it in that range between 219 and 254, I think it's not terrible. I just think we can catch it less than that. Definitely less than 220 should be very possible. Less than 186, I still think is on the table, or at least like low 190s, possibly in the 180s, is still on the table, and so we'll keep it as a good buy point. But really, if we get it below, say, 219, which it currently is at about 213, I think that's a decent spot. It's definitely below what we're marking as a fair value. So again, let me know your thoughts if you think that's fair or if you would change anything. We'll kind of see how this plays out. I guess one last thing to add is where would I think this one today could end up between end of third quarter. So if I just draw in a box here, let me just draw it in first, and then we'll update the color so it matches. For end of third quarter, based on this, I'm actually going to hone this one in a little bit. We'll say it'll hang out in that fair value range. So clearly, I don't think this uptrend is going to continue for the rest of the year. We'll of course see. So by the end of the third quarter, I'm going to I'll give it like a little bit of a stepping stone type approach where I think it's really going to stay in that same range. I think it might. I haven't given one or the other a greater impact, but technically this purple uptrend, it's been intact for one more month, so 5 months there, and this sideways consolidation, that's been happening for 4 months. So pretty even, both very short term, and I feel pretty comfortable with this one. In terms of third quarter, it's really make or break here because we could either, for instance, if we thought this one's going to be, it's going to continue sideways, well then the range is going to look somewhere like here. Or alternatively, if we think the uptrend, then we would think all the way up here. So that's a pretty big difference that we're talking about. And so that's why I'm saying what I'm going to do. Because again, looking back at that fair value range, I think we'll just do, like I said, a slight stepping up. So I think how it would work is I don't think the consolidation will last that much longer. Of course, when we get to the news, we'll be able to kind of confirm that. But I also don't think it's going to continue at that type of incline. I think it might pull back a little bit and just kind of level out, but still kind of improve between now and the end of the year. So overall, let me just update the date to show today. So we noted the slight uptrend for 5 months. Also consolidating for 4 months. We said buy the dips before. I would say that's still true. May have broken uptrend. Yeah, we could still argue that. Decrease in profit margin for gaining market share. So we mentioned that earlier. Overall, if I were to give this one a score of, buy, not buy, or that it's, at a fair price, I'm actually going to say no. I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to, I'm just looking at the numbers real quick because it's currently at 213, and we also said resistance at 213. Yeah, I'm going to stick on my gut with this and say it's a little bit too high right now. So we're going to give it a red, but it's very close to being a blue. So depending on where you want to put the weight in, because again, if we look at our 4 horizontal lines, the green, the 2 blue, and the red, we are still below fair value based on those horizontal. It's just the short term right now is kind of outweighing those long term horizontal lines because so much has happened with this one. I do think, I think it's, looking back, there's clearly a decent amount of activity between about 200 and 254. So maybe we're just going to kind of hang out in that range in the near term. Looking at our projections, we're kind of in the middle between now and second quarter, kind of in the middle of now and third quarter, but below year end. I just want to see if this pulls back. I guess the fair thing to do would be market as fair value. So that's what we'll do. But I do think there's potential that we're going to run into some resistance here and pull back. But overall, it's not a bad price. So let's just show what we did. So we have Tesla currently at 213. We're giving it a blue for fair value. Here's our little chart down here. How can I do this? Let's expand this a little bit just to give us some more room. And I don't think that did much. I'm trying to get it so that we can see the chart on the screen. I guess we could zoom out a little bit. So again, Tesla here, 213. Preferably we want to buy it at 186. I think we'll run into some resistance between now, 213, but ultimately 298 is the more firm resistance point. We're in that slight uptrend for the past 5 months. However, it's also consolidating for about the past 4 months. So we still want to kind of buy the dips on this one. It may have broken out of that uptrend, again, based on that consolidation. And as we mentioned, there's this decreasing profit margin for gaining market share. That's kind of their strategy right now. And so because of that, I kind of think it's overpriced based on what their financials are likely going to show when we look at them. So that was a little bit long, but let's move on to Airbnb. So Airbnb, we noticed that there was this uptrend, it looks like. That clearly has been broken. So we're just going to delete that out right out the gate. It seems to be consolidating now between about 107 all the way up to 131. We know this one has a lot of potential. It's gone up to like 219, 220. But for whatever reason seems to have found comfortability here. And it's been that way since about May of 22. So not crazy long, but again, it seems to be finding comfort in this area. And right now, it's just slightly above what we thought was the fair value, which I'm actually going to give this one decent weight here, these horizontal lines, because they're based on about year, about a year here that it's been acting this way. And our fair value range is 107 to 116. We're at 118. So I guess right off the bat, I'm saying I'd probably wait on this one, see if it pulls back to at least 107. I think that's within the ballpark of happening. Ultimately, we'd want to catch it close to like 95. Not sure if we'll get it at that level. Let's see. What I could do is pull this down just a little bit. Would I want to extend this up? Possibly. Somewhere like here-ish. It's really in the fair value range. I'm not too familiar with this one. I know they've had like issues in the past. Again, I'd have to look at it. So I guess let's just kind of go through our tracker here. So on 4/13, it was at 113. So 4/13, right around here. Really just traded sideways during that month and a half. No, hasn't really done much, but today it's at 118, so it did go up overall. Nothing crazy. We had a buy point. We actually said 116. I think that's because we had those purple uptrend lines. Clearly that's broken, so we can now update the buy point. Honestly, probably like 105. That would be the bottom of this blue trend, which seems to have acted as support very recently, just last month. So I am going to just update this to 105. Ultimately, though, we would want to catch it at like 95. Very possible. It's possible, you know. So what we'll do is we'll just add both in, 95 and 105. In terms of resistance, yeah, 131, still, I'm okay with that. I think, again, just keeping in the fair value range in mind, which, again, the upper limit of that range is 118. I think if you're going to get it between 118 and 131, sure, long term, 5-10 years down the road, probably a great deal. But in the short term, again, I think it's not the best deal at that range. Again, if you can get it between 105 and 118, sure, it's fair, you know. But our goal is to try to catch these ones when it's low. So overall, I'd say it's fair. So we can just color code that now, make it blue. I'm okay with that. Going back to resistance, 131. Yes, I will keep that. We'll update the date to today, 6/3. So previously we said short-term uptrend has broken by about 1 week. It's clearly broken from that. It's now trading sideways. So we'll just update it to say consolidating between 105 and 131 for past about 4 months, end of January till today, so like 4 months for past 4 months. So kind of similar to what Tesla did. I'm sure that's just a coincidence though, because these aren't really related in industry at least. So yeah, one other thing I'll do is I just like to see how I want to see how good I can get at this. But in terms of like the end of the month, I think we're just going to hang out in this range, right in here. It might drop a little above, a little below. I think that's a good range. And in all honesty, all I'm going to do for a third quarter, unless I see something in like the paperwork that tells me different, kind of think it's going to be the same again for the end of the third quarter. So all I'm going to do is, I'll make it a little bit wider, I guess. I don't know if I feel because I have a little bit of time between now and then, we'll probably circle back to this one at least once, hopefully a few times, and we'll narrow it in as time passes. But I think these are fair ranges. I'm very comfortable with this. This one, again, I'd have to read more into it to kind of firm up on, do I think it's going to be on the low side, the high side? It looks like end of the year, we're saying it'll be on the high side, but kind of too soon. I'm not sure what I was basing this on. So we'll leave it for now until I find something that changes my mind. Uh, but yeah, that pretty much wraps this one up. Let me share just what we updated. And again, if you have a different opinion on any of these or want to share any insights, by all means, let me know. But so Airbnb, currently it's at 118. We have buy points marked between 105. I think is like the first like good spot. Like I would be happy with that. But we marked out 95 as like a very good bottom, and if it hits that, yeah, you want to add on. Resistance seems to be 131. I'm not sure how long it'll take to be go above and beyond that, but for now it seems like it's having trouble getting over that point. And so recently, the past 4 months, it's been consolidating between 105 and 131. So again, if you can catch it closer to 105, 109, something like that, I think that's a pretty good deal. So finally, we'll move on to Crispr. So this one seems to be a fan favorite. I mean, they have a lot of things going for them, and it looks like just if we take a quick glance at what we kind of projected, the news that I remember on this one is they had some sort of cure or treatment for, I believe, sickle cell disease, and if it goes through, that should be very good for this company. And of course, if it doesn't get approved or whatever, it's going to be bad. And so that was based on when we looked at them at about 415. So if we look at 415, so that's right around here at like 50. That's what our chart shows, 50. So we came up with the news right around there, I imagine. And that's what our note says, possible disease therapy to be approved. I guess I figured give it about a month to see if something happens. And then I thought that should be enough time that it's either going to shoot off because it's been approved, or it's going to pull right back down because it got rejected. It seems like that kind of was true. I'm not sure why I chose here as the pivot point, outside of it just happening to be a month away, but that seems to be the case. So I have to imagine either people are getting more excited about it getting approved, or it actually was approved, in which case this is going to be very good news. Very excited to see the news on this one. And if you know the answer, by all means, share it in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on that. So looking at this, let's just zoom back out a little bit. We had a big projection, and that seems very possible at this point. I just want to see if I want to update anything. So like this fair value range, I'm kind of tempted to pull it down some, closer to like here-ish. Only because up here, I kind of was trying to split. I think that's what I was doing. Like, there seemed to be, like, it hung out here in first quarter of 22, kind of again, second quarter of 22. Here, we kind of lumped these in. It definitely went below, but not crazy outside of the range. Kind of acted as resistance. I just want to pull it down just a little bit more. Something like here, I guess. I don't know if that really did much, but we'll put that in. So I guess the first question is what is the buy point for this one? Based on where it's going, we'll remove this yellow point. So I guess for me, one thing I think we'll do a little bit different. If I look at where I think this one is going to be at the end of the quarter, Based on the trajectory, this one looks like it's going to be like up here, you know, by the end of the month. It did seem to kind of settle down a little bit, so maybe that's not really realistic that it could pop up. Clearly, I know it has the capability to climb that quick, but maybe it kind of already did its fun and had this high acceleration. Now it's going to kind of trade sideways. So um, what I'll do is I'll kind of pull it back a little bit. We'll say here. So between now and the end of the month, end of second quarter, I think it's at a decent price. I think worst case it just will trade flat, or it might continue to accelerate, and you might see $70 by the end of the quarter. Um, Also, if we look at what we thought could be on the table for this one at year end, we thought it would be between where it is right now and all the way up to 80. So if you consider that, this is also decent time to buy. Uh, so you know what? Uh, I mean, overall, I mean, this is fair value. I'll just say that right now. I mean, it's in that range, um, almost like dead center in the middle of the range. The things that it has going for it, and again, I kind of wish I did some of the news catch up on this one prior to this, but we'll circle back before we know it. Um, is the fact that if this like therapy was approved and whatever, this one is definitely going to continue going up, and that makes this one actually a decent time to just get in as soon as possible, reap the rewards. But yeah, we just don't know. So hopefully, I mean, if someone knows, please share in the comments. I'd be happy to read that. Otherwise, we'll circle back to this hopefully sometime later in June. Um, so I guess for now, for a buy point, I would say we'll elevate it to about 52. 45 is definitely a sweet deal. That's our green line. I'm going to add another point at 52. Obviously, it doesn't have to be 52. If so, this blue line range is about $20 between like 50 and 70. So if you can get this one at $60 or less, I'd still say that's a good deal. Um, because again, it's definitely fair in my opinion. And then it's on the bottom half of fairness, which means it's a good deal. Um, but I guess for now, I'll keep it at 52, which is again the ultimate, or at least a very good time. 45 is the ultimate. Um, and again, we just have to always mentally think that if we see this one and it's say 55, no, it's not at 52 or even close to 45, but you know, it might be close enough that we would pull the trigger on it. It all depends on how much exposure you want into it, and if you have any, you know, just some basic questions. Resistance we had at 90. So again, that's all the way at this red point. I'm not sure. I guess I'm actually going to pull that down a little bit. Just pull it down to like 86. And maybe keep it up here. We'll keep it at 90, I guess. But it could be lower, in all honesty. Um, so yeah, resistance. Would I add another resistance point below? Not. I mean, clearly 71. I think has potential to be troublesome for this one. Again, it all just depends on if something of theirs gets approved or whatever. And if it does, that's great news, and it's going to shoot this one off. Um, Alternatively, if it gets rejected, it'll pull back pretty quick. I'm adding in 71, which is this upward blue line. If it goes through there, I think it has a very good chance to just hang out between 71 and 91. But until we get there, we won't know. So the last, and I didn't update the price. So right now it's at 65. So let's see. Previously we looked at 415, which is right here, about $50, and it's really shot off, going from 50 to 65. Very good return. I'm very confident I bought in on this one close to that $50 mark, and if you did, we're doing phenomenal. $50. What would that be? 15 divided by 50. It's like a 30% return in like a month and a half. Great find. We'll see if that continues, of course. Anything else I need to add here? Yes, so one last thing. If I were to think of where this one might be between now and the third quarter, so let's just draw a box in and then we'll adjust as we need to. So 22, 10, 6. So just based on the trajectory of this one, I mean, oh man, the fact that it kind of consolidated a little bit, I feel like that's a little more comforting in a way. It clearly tells me there's more time that we can catch this one if it wants to continue propelling higher. We just got to kind of follow up quicker rather than later. But again, based on where it is, I guess I'll be a little risky on this one and say third quarter, it might pop out all the way into between 70 and 80, and then year end, we'll still kind of catch both bars to see how this plays out ultimately. But otherwise, that pretty much wraps this one up. If you have any opinions on this one or any of the other two that we covered and you want to share insights on that, by all means, let me know. But for now, here's Crispr. So it's currently at 65. We have buy points marked at 52 is good, 45 is best. Resistance seems like it's possible at 71. Definitely 90. I would kind of maybe consider pulling off some profits, depending on how many shares we have. And then, of course, the note that we had from previous was this possible disease therapy is going to be approved. And if it does, that's great. The only other thing I could add is like it's kind of been in this uptrend for the past 2 months. I think it's too soon for me to call it that. So I'm not at this point. But, if we circle back in this one, say 2 weeks or 3 weeks down the road, yeah, we will definitely make a point to mention that. But that wraps this up. So let me just have this on the screen while I close out. If you haven't already done so, please like, subscribe. And again, if you have different price points than what I'm seeing or want to add any like input in terms of news, because again, I didn't cover any during this episode, please let me know. I'd be happy to read that. Otherwise, again, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.